हरिः ओं श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। ॐ वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः। स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नास्ताक्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Namaste friends. A warm welcome to session 9 of the Mandukya Upanishad with Karika. In all the previous Upanishads we have studied, the Mundaka, the Kaivalya Upanishad, the Kena Upanishad, Brahman is the cause and the universe is the effect. Brahman is a substratum and the universe is superimposed on Brahman. Example, gold and ornaments, wave and water. So water is Satya and the wave is Mithya. However, in the Mandukya Upanishad, Brahman is I, the experiencer, and the universe is the object of my experience. So I am Satya and the world is Mithya. Today, we continue the study of this wonderful Upanishad, where we will conclude the Agama Prakarana Karikas and begin the fascinating Vaitatya Prakarana Karikas of Gaudapadacharya. Before we enter today's session, I request Srimati Rama Gopalakrishna to help us recollect what we studied in the previous class. Over to you, Rama Madam.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Recap of Mundaka Upanishad, Mantra 12 and Karikas 24 to 27, which we discussed in the last session. The Upanishad talked about Omkara and gave three upasanas on them. Akara, Ukaras of Atma. Mantra 12 speaks about the meditation on silence, the fourth aspect of Om, and it corresponds to Turiya, the fourth aspect of the self. Turiya, or the pure consciousness, is distinct from all three states and is the foundation of them. Karikas 24 to 29 explain meditation upon Om. After practicing the upasana for some time, one realizes that Akara, Ukara, Makara are resolved in the silence. An example for this resolution was provided by the bangle, chain, ring, and gold, the only reality. We inferred that there is no substance called ornaments except gold. Similarly, the three padas, that is Virat, Hiranyagarbha, and Prajna, and respective matras Akara, Ukara, Makara are negated, and then only Advaitam, Turiyaha, or Amatra, the only reality, remains. Further, mantra describes Turiya as Prapanchopashamaha, that is cessation of all the three worlds, then Shivaha, most auspicious, and Advaitaha, the non-dual. The benefit of this knowledge is the Jivatma enters into Paramatma. With this Upanishad mantras, the Shankara Bhashyam also ends. These 12 mantras of this Upanishad justifies the statement Mandukyam eva alam for liberation. Karika 24 represents the transition from the lower Brahman to the higher Brahman. Hereafter, everything concerning with creation is dropped and mind solely focused upon substratum, the absolute reality. Acharya Gaudapada, consolidating his teachings from previous Karikas, says that one has to clearly understand Omkaraha Padashaha, the four padas of Atma, equating with four matras of Omkara, that is, equating Gakara to Vishwa, Ukara to Taijasaha, Makaraha to Prajna, which are known as Adhyaropa padas, the superimposed, and equating Amatra to Turiyam, which is the Apavada padaha, that is the negation. The first three padas are called Saguna Brahman, responsible for manifestation of this universe, on Nirguna Brahman, the Adhishtanam. Once one abides in the Turiyam or Amatra, na kinchidapi chintayet, says the mantra. That is, thereafter, nothing else should be thought of, for the knower of Omkara has all his desires fulfilled. Karika 25 mentions Pranavaha is another name for Omkaraha. Here, Gaudapadacharya talks about Nididhyasanam on Nirguna Brahman, the Lakshartha of Omkara or Pranavaha. The word Yunjita means to unify or to absorb in the Paramartha Pranavaha, that is Amatra Rupaha, the fourth pada. After Adhyaropa and Apavada, Pranava, the Nirguna Brahman, is free from Bhayam or the Samsara. Nitya Yuktasya, that is, one who abides all the time in Pranava, has no fear of anything. Bhayam or Samsara is in Vyavaharika padas and not in Turiya, the Paramarthika pada. A fear results from understanding the limited duality. Duality arises through ignorance of the absolute. Body, mind, and ego are the machines of duality. Shruti Vakyas like Dvitiyadvai Bhayam Bhavati. It is from a second entity that fear arises, supports this Advaita state. When Janaka attained enlightenment, his guru Yajnavalkya told him, Abhayam Praptosi Vai Janaka. You have reached the fearlessness. Karika 26 shows Om is both the lower and the higher Brahman. Brahman in its totality can be classified from a particular angle into three types: Karya Brahman, Karana Brahman, and Karya Karana Vilakshana Brahman. Virat and Hiranyagarbha are Karya Brahman, Ishvara is Karana Brahman, and Nirguna Brahman is Karya Karana Vilakshana Brahman. Nirguna Brahman is described as Apurvaha, the Karana Rahitaha, means it does not have any cause at all. Anaparaha implies Karya Rahitaha. Brahman is not an effect. It is neither the cause nor the effect, but the causeless cause. Anantaraha and Abhashyaha implies Turiya is Sajatiya Vijatiya Swagata Bheda Rahitaha. Turiya is without cause and exists everywhere, both inside and outside, like salt in the water of the ocean. Therefore, it is Avyayaha, meaning without any degeneration or change, or it is changeless. Shed Vikara Rahitaha, that is eternal. Karika 27 points out Srushti Sthiti Laya as Adi Madhyantaha. Brahman is the only absolute reality. Maya is empirical reality. The Amatra Pranava is without any cause and effect. According to Parinamavadaha, Pranava is the cause of origination, existence, and resolution of this entire universe. When Maya is associated with this Nirguna Brahman, it is called Saguna Brahman and becomes the cause of this universe to be created, sustained, and dissolute. The meditation should be, I am that Nirguna consciousness. When associated with Maya principle as Ishvara, I alone am the cause of creation, sustenance, and dissolution. Understanding the Pranava in this manner, a person attains that Brahman immediately. Knowledge alone is the cause of mukti, nothing else. The one who knows the real nature of Om at once becomes unified with it. Thank you. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Thank you very much, Ramaji, for giving us a clear summary of the Karikas that we studied in the last class. Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Pariyantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. In today's class, we conclude the Agama Prakarana. With the conclusion of the Agama Prakarana, we complete the study of the Mandukya Upanishad, which is 12 mantras, along with 29 Karikas, which highlight the important mantras and summarize these mantras. Gaudapadacharya, in his wisdom, is bringing something much more than what the Upanishad itself has said, because as you know, this Upanishad is a Sutra Bhuta Upanishad. Sutra means it is extremely packed, and therefore much has to be inferred, and the inference is drawn from the learnings from the other Upanishads. In today's class, I would like, as we are completing Agama Prakarana, I would like to look at the entire chapter and tell you what are those mantras or what are those karikas which all of us have to highlight on. Now, even though we have completed it, it is my intention that at some stage before November, before Swami Anubhavananda ji comes, we have a proper revision of this, because these essential mantras should go into our head. When we are studying Mandukya Upanishad, as highlighted by Panaga earlier, there is one Mahavakya which we all love. Mai eva sakalam jatam, mai sarvam pratishtitam, mai sarvam layam yati tad brahmadvayam asmayam aham. This is a Mahavakya from the Kaivalya Upanishad, which says, because of me, this whole creation has come into existence. This whole creation is sustained by me, and this whole creation resolves into me. The vision now is that I am Atma Brahma, I am Brahman, and this whole world is existing in me. Now, this is understood in mantras 1 and 2, where in mantra 1 and 2, the Upanishad begins by saying, Om is everything. The second mantra says, Brahman is everything, and I am Atma Brahma. In the second mantra, there is a word I am. The word I am means aparokshataha, very proximate. That means I know it as my real nature. So the first two mantras are important, which tells everything is Om, everything is Brahman, and I am Brahman. From mantras 3 to mantra 6 is what is called Adhyaropa. This whole world has been superimposed and divided into 3 stages of waking, dream, and deep sleep. And in each of these, we have to split ourselves into 2. For example, right now we are in the waking state. During the waking state, I split myself into 2. That means I am the experiencer and the world is the object of experience. So I am Vishwa and that is Virat. So too in the dream, Taijasa, Hiranyagarbha, Prajna, Ishvara. Mantras 5, particularly mantra 6, is very, very important because that is what talks about Ishvara. And immediately after that, because of the importance of that topic, Gaudapadacharya gives 9 Karikas, most of them explaining mantra 6. In the whole of Mandukya, there is one mantra which all of us have to memorize and we have to claim as myself. And the importance of this mantra is clarified in Karikas from 10 to 18. Gaudapadacharya gives the importance of this mantra in 9 Karikas. From the mantra 8 to mantra 12 is the same discussion on Omkara, not as Atma, not the various padas of Atma, but in the form of the sound of Omkara, A, U, and Ma, which is very useful for Upasana or meditation. As this is a topic that we recently discussed, and for want of time, I will not touch from mantras 8 and all the Karikas associated with that. Now, after the mantra 6, we have 5 Karikas. The first 5 Karikas summarize the first 5 mantras. Karika 1 talks of Pada Trayam. Karika 2 talks of Sthana Trayam. For example, if you want to talk about Vishwa Virat, then you imagine it is located in the right eye. Taijasya Hiranya Garbha's Sthana is in the mind because it is all about the dream state. Prajna Ishvara is in the state of the heart. Now, Bhogatrayam and Triptitrayam deal with these 3 states, deal with the gross, the subtle, and the causal. And in the course of these Karikas, Gaudapadacharya sort of gives us the importance of each of these mantras and what significance we have to give. There is an important Karika, Karika number 5, which says, Trishu Damasu Yad Bojyam Bhokta Cha Yat Prakritirtaha. Now, what he's trying to say is, I'm speaking, you are listening. In all our interactions, am I sensitive to what is happening? So if I become in pratibodha viditam matam, that means even though I am interacting, if I become aware of my interaction, and if I localize to the real me, who is just the Sakshi who's observing, I may be involved in whatever I do, but na lipyate, I am asangaha, I am not affected by anything that happens. And this is a useful mantra, pratibodha viditam. In every interaction, I'm speaking, you're listening. Can I be more sensitive to the fact that how my mind is processing the information? And who is the observer, the Sakshi of all that is happening? We come to mantra 6. Over here, the slide says verse 6, but we should remember it is a mantra. The mantra means the original Upanishad. Now, this is a very important mantra. Or wherever I say important, we have to memorize that. This mantra is talking about Ishvara. And in Mandukya, there are 2 things. Prajna, in deep sleep, I identify with myself. And the samashti, the total is Ishvara. In Mandukya, the Vyashti and Samashti are taken as one. Therefore, we have to have the courage to see yourself in deep sleep as one with Ishvara. And therefore, all the what we talk about Ishvara are all about me when I am fast asleep. Yesha Sarveshvara. That means I am the Lord of everything. Yesha Sarvagnya. I am the knower of everything. Yesha Yeshontaryami. I am the indweller and the controller of all. Yesha Yoni Sarvasha. This is the source of everything. And not only the source, the whole creation and resolution comes from Ishvara. And because we are talking about Ishvara, and the moment we talk about creation, Gaudapadacharya becomes very active. Because Gaudapadacharya does not believe in creation. His theory that he wants to come till the very end in all the Karikas is called Ajativada. That means there is no birth. There is no birth for me. There is no creation possible. But all our Upanishads talk of this creation that I say. This is what is called for teaching purposes. That means for a student to understand, this is called Adhyaropa, and that has to be negated subsequently. So see Ishvara as the Karanam, the world as Karyam. And from Ishvara, the whole creation has come into being. And into Ishvara, everything gets resolved also. Gaudapadacharya discusses various theories of creation. And he is very scientific. He says matter can neither be created nor destroyed, so there can be no possibility of creation. Then what is this? This is like Mayavi. It is like a magic. It is an appearance. And therefore, because it is an appearance, let us not give too much importance. I experience it. It is for purposes of experience, but let me not get too involved in the whole creation. The 7th mantra begins the Apavada part. The Apavada means If I have to discover my real self, I have to say, I am Nantat Prajnam na Bahish Prajnam. I am not the one who is aware of the outer world or the inner world. So the Apavada starts then to be able to discover my real nature as Atma, Shantam, Shivam, Advaitam, Ekatma, Satyaya, Saram, Prapancho, Pashamam, and so on. Now, the moment this mantra is over, Gaudapadacharya comes in with 9 Karikas. And of them, the 9th Karika. And that means the first 8 Karikas are over. The 9th that finished in after the mantra 6. Now, after mantra 7 come 9 Karikas. I cannot remember. It must be the number will be the 10th number. It will be, we'll come to it. So I think it is the 10th Karika which talks of the greatness of Turiya. 11 to 15 is a wonderful comparing and contrast between Vishwa, Taijasa, Prajna, and Turiya. You will really enjoy these Karikas because it will help you to understand through compare and contrast. And in today's class, I wish to highlight Karikas 16, 17, and 18 as the most important Karikas. Mantra 7 is the most important. Mantra 12 is very important. All the other mantras are also important, but I'm giving a relative importance. And mantra 16, 17, and 18, I mean, Karika 16, 17, 18 are something that we need to understand, make it a part of our own understanding in life, and if possible, explain it to somebody else. We now come to Karika 10, that is the first Karika that comes after the 7th mantra, Nantat Prajna. And in this one Karika, Gaudapadacharya is able to summarize very beautifully the entire 7th mantra and also bring about the greatness. And what is this greatness? In Sanskrit, it goes as Nivritte Sarva Dukkhanam. If you understand your true nature as Atma, immediately all your sorrow disappears because you discover that you are Ishana Prabhuhu Avyayaha Advaita Sarva Bhavana Deva. Now, these are all various adjectives for your true nature. So, this one Karika is talking about the greatness of Turiya and the importance of knowing that mantra, because once you know, I'm not this body-mind complex, I'm not this limited person, then all my problems become insignificant. Like in the 10th man story, the moment you discover the 10th man, suddenly all my problems have gone. All my sufferings have gone. And then you come to a state of tripti or purnatva. The moment we wake up to our true knowledge, what is this true knowledge? I am Atma Brahma. The word I am means aparokshataha. I'm not knowing Brahman as Brahman exists there, but Brahman is myself. I am Brahman. In that waking, what happens? This is something to remember at the conclusion of the 7th mantra. Whenever I forget my true nature, I convert my life into a burden. The moment you feel, why am I suffering so much? Remember, I have fallen to my limited Jiva Bhava. But when I remember my true nature, which happens during satsang, in moments of prayer, in moments of meditation, or through understanding, if I'm able to live this teaching, then my whole life becomes a blessing because I claim my higher nature or Turiyam. So that is the greatness of that mantra. After the 7th mantra, there are many Karikas. What are these Karikas talking about? These Karikas are talking about a set of terms where we use 2 terms. One is called ignorance and the other is called error. Turiyam is free from both. It is free from both ignorance and Turiyam is free from error. Whenever there is ignorance, it is called agrahanam. I am not able to grasp the reality. And because I'm not able to grasp the reality, then what do? Anyata grahanam. I grasp the unreal. Because I do not know my true nature as Atma, I'm not able to grasp my true nature, then I grasp onto my body-mind nature. So, ignorance is called karanam, and the error is called karyam. So the other words, because commentators are there, Adi Shankara, sometimes they use other words like, for ignorance, the word used is seed or bijam, and for the plant or the tree, the word is used as ankura. For ignorance, the word used is nidra, and for error, the word used is swapna, because these are interchangeably used. So remember these two words and these terms. I'm going to repeat this again and again. For ignorance, four terms come in both the Karikas and in the Bhashyam. For ignorance, the terms would be nidra, agrahanam, karanam, or bija. For error, the corresponding terms are swapna, anyata grahanam, karyam, ankura, or phalam. Now, what is the difference between Vishwa, Taijasa, Prajna, and Turiya? In Vishwa and Taijasa, in the whole of Mandukya, and you will see more when it comes to the Vaitatya Prakarana. And in the Vaitatya Prakarana, you will see the waking and the dream are considered together, because in both these states, two problems are there. I do not know my true nature, and I identify with the limited body-mind complex. So there is both ignorance and error in Vishwa and Taijasa. In Prajna, there is ignorance. I do not know who I am, but I don't make a mistake of identifying with the limited body-mind complex, and therefore there is no suffering and there is all bliss. In Turiya, that means once I get Brahma Jnanam, then there is no ignorance. I know that this body-mind is only an instrument, and therefore whatever happens to my body-mind and the world around me cannot affect me, and therefore there can be no error also. To repeat again, ignorance is known as nidra or sleep, agrahanam, non-perception of the reality, karanam, ignorance of the cause, bijam or seed, whereas error has four different terms: swapna, anyata, grahanam, karyam, and ankura. With this, I come to the description. Very briefly, I will tell you of these three Karikas. Karika 16, 17, and 18. Karika 16 is talking about us. Anadi Mayaya Shukto Yada Jiva Prabudhyate Ajam Anidram Aswapnam Advaitam Buddhyate Tada. Now, what has happened? Anadi Mayaya. Both ignorance and misconception have been there from beginningless time. So we should not blame why this ignorance. It has been there all the time. And because of ignorance, I forget my true nature as Turiyam, and I have identified with the Jiva. But then we are those fortunate few who are in the state of Prabudhyate, who are being awakened to a spiritual knowledge. We have come to that state of Yat Sakshat Kurute Prabodha Samaye. And when I wake up, then what I Sakshat, yes, Sakshat Kurute Prabodha Samaye, Swatmanam Eva Advayam. Now, the word Advayam means even though I experience duality, I know that I include everything. I don't make a distinction of me and another. Why? I have woken up from anidram. That means I've dissociated from my causal state or deep sleep state, aswapnam, from my dream state. That means I disidentify from Taijasa and Hiranyagarbha. And ajam. Ajam means my identification with the gross body. Birth relates to the body. So I am vilakshana. I am other than the gross, subtle, and the causal body, and I identify with advayam. Very important. Anadi mayaya shukto. From beginningless maya, I have woken up. Yada jiva prabhudyate. Then ajam. I have no birth, anidram, aswapnam, and I awaken to Advitiyam. This is what exactly Swami Vivekananda says, Uttishtata Jagrata Prapya Varani Bodhata. That is why Mandukya is also called the enlightened people are like the croaking of the frog. So during this Guru Purnima time, it's also a rainy season. The sounds of the Guru is like the croaking of the frog, which prevent us from this Anadi Mayaya. It wakes us up from the sleep. Now, Karika 17 talks about Prapancha yadi vidyate nivarteta na samshaya. Maya matram idam dvaitam advaitam paramartada. This is another Karika to be known and remembered. Now the question is, in the wake of rope knowledge, supposing I get to know the rope, which I always imagine the snake, it as a snake. Will that rope snake go away? I want you to answer the question. Now, we have suffered because of the imaginary snake. Now I realize it is not the snake, but it is the rope. When I get that rope knowledge, will the snake go away? The answer is yes or no. The slope will never go away because the snake was never there. Now remember, somebody else had put a picture of a bent pencil when it is half in and half out of water. Now to straighten that pencil, what should we do? Do we need to pull it out of the water? Because I know it has never been bent. So too, the snake was never there. It is all my imagination. So this is the vision of Gaudapadacharya. He says the snake was never there. So there is no question. So what is this Turiya Jnanam means? I get to know the world is mithya. And therefore, even though I experience the world, Advaitam is in spite of Dvaitam. I see the sunset and the sunrise. I know the sun does not set or the sunrise. I can see the blue sky, but I know that the sky is not blue. I see the water of the ocean or the lake looks blue, but I know it is not so. So this is Advaitam in spite of Dvaitam. And then comes a very final question, which comes in Karika number 18. Now he says, now you have to accept, how did I get this knowledge? Because of my guru and because of my teaching. So there is a student, there is a teacher, there is a teaching. So there must be a duality. So here also he says, see, this duality is only for the purposes of teaching. This is what is called Adhyaropa Apavada. But in reality, na guru, na shishya. There is no guru, there is no teaching. So finally what happens? You understand, I am not the knower of Brahman. I am Brahman itself. Na Brahmavid, Brahmaiva Bhavati. So these are the important Karikas 16, 17, and 18, where we declare our true nature. I will not be coming in between our speakers because the second half is all about Upasana. Not that it is not important, but for various reasons, I will not be touching into all of these. And this whole Agama Prakarana concludes with the glory of Omkara, the glory of what Om is all about. Our opening speaker will be Dr. Kiran. Dr. Kiran, please.
Namaste. Hari Om. Gurubhyo Namah. Mandukya Karikas 24 to 29 are commentaries on 12th mantra, which deals with Amatra part of the Om. The verse goes like this. Pranavam Ishvaram Vidyat Sarvasya Hridi Samstitam Sarvya Vyapina Omkaram Matvadiro Nashochati. One should know Omkara to be indeed the Lord who is presiding in the hearts of all. Having thus known Omkara, which is all-pervading, the discriminating one does not grieve. Here, we are studying Omkara as a symbol or alambana for Ishvara. Ishvara can be Saguna Ishvara, that we know, like the, who's having Trishula, or it can be Lord Vishnu, etc. Or it can be Nirguna Ishvara or Brahman. Can refer to both third pada as well as the fourth pada, Turiyam, which we have studied in the verse 7. That is, Na anta prajna, na bahish prajnam, etc. Let us study based on keywords here. Hridi samstitam. Here, Ridhi refers to mind, not heart. Mind is the locus, and in that mind is Ishwaram Sthitam or present. Here, Ishvara is present as Sakshi Chaitanyam. I'll explain it later. If it is Avidya Sahita Sakshi, that is, if it is a Saguna, it is called Tritiya Pada. Here, negatives are important. It is, if it is Avidya Rahita Sakshi, or it is Vidya Stita Sakshi, then it will be called Turiya. So, here it is, Ishvara is Stitam, is none other than represented as Pranam. Pranava. What type of Pranava is Ishvara? It is, let us, Amatra Pradhana Pranava or Sakshi Chaitanya. Let us study further. Here, as we know, Om presents the all three states which we come, that is waking, dream, and the deep sleep. The real Pranava or is Sakshi Chaitanya, or it is background, that is the silence in which all these sounds occur, or it is called as Anahat Padam. Pranava is Sakshi Chaitanyam, that is all-knowing sentient. Sentient. It is not, some inanimate object. It is the sentient. Amatra Pradhana Pranavam, that is Ishvara Vidya. One should recognize Pranava as equivalent to Sakshi Chaitanyam, that which resides in the mind or heart of everyone. And here it is represents a Turiya Brahman, saying that Brahman is the art. Will it be an infinite one? I can have one small Brahman in my heart. You can have your own, Brahman in the heart. No, it is not. That's why it is told us it is in the art of everyone and everywhere. That is why it is present as Sarvasya. Is it only as a Yukti? No. It is supported by Shruti. Shankaracharya in his Bhashyam quotes this 8th chapter of Chandukya, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Ruda Se Arjuna Stita. In Bhagavad Gita also it is told. And in 8th chapter of Bhagavad Chandogya, it is present told as Akasha Upasana. Therefore, he says Sarvasya Pranya Jatisya Rudaya, in the art of all living beings, or in short, all beings. Sarvasya Vyapinam, all pervading like Akasha. Then, it also shares this Dhira. Let us study this further. In Bhagavad Gita also we know the verse Dhiraha na anushochanti. Here it is told as Dhira na shochanti. Who is Dhira? Here, the Natva or the Matva, the one who knows Omkara and understands the real meaning of Omkara, is the Dhiraha or Buddhiman. It is not somebody who's powerful warrior is called Dhiraha. Always in Vedanta, it is the one, Dhiraha is the one who knows, understands the real, or one who has the Viveka. That is Viveka Vairagyam, we know all that. One who knows the difference between the permanent and impermanent, and who knows the ephemeral things and puts his bet on the continuous or nitya, that person is called as Viveka, or he is the Chatushtaya Sampanna. That is, he has all the qualities which we have of Viveka, Vairagya, Mumukshu, and Sat Shampati, that is Shamadama, etc. Here, as we discussed in the previous, the knower of the self crosses the sorrow. Na shochati. The person who understands that this knowledge is the liberating knowledge, has no more grief in life. How is that? Just because I learned, okay, Brahman is present everywhere, does it mean that I will not have any sadness or I will not become worried? This is possible only if this knowledge reaches from mind to heart. That is, we know and we feel and we every day we are aware that this Brahman, this is me, the real essence of me and real essence in you, everybody is same. That person really will not have any worries, the shochati. Why is that he will not grieve? Is it only because of yukti as we studied before? No. Shoka nimitta anupateta. That is, here he also quotes Shruti Vakyam, Tarati Shokamat from Chandogya again. The knower of self crosses the sorrow. Why is that? Because The real cause of sorrow is dushta chatushtayam, that is ahankara mamakara, that is I, the ego, and because of I, mine, this object is mine, this is not mine, I like this, I do not like this. This is the one which causes raga dvesha, and this is the basis of all the grief in the world. Once we understand that everything either belongs to me, the real I, or everything is not mine, everything is God, in which case, in both the cases, we will not have attachment and there's no real grief in that. So, in short, the one who knows that there is only Ishvara everywhere and in everyone and everything, there's no attachment for any particular thing, and such a person does not have grief and he attains Purnata. Thank you.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Coming to Karika 29, the last Karika of Agama Prakarana. Amatro Anantamatrascha Dvaitasyopashamaha Shivaha Omkaro Vidito Ena Samunir Naitaro Janaha. All these Karikas, starting from 24 to the last, the 29th, are a commentary on the 12th mantra dealing with Amatra. In this Karika, Gaudapada specifically comments on Amatra and concludes. Amatra, what is Amatra? It's the silence at the end of Omkara. Om. At the end of Omkara, there's a silence. That is called Amatra, which is nothing but the consciousness principle. It is without any limit for its boundary. For a sound, there's a spatial and time-wise boundary, but for silence, there is no such boundary. It is limitless. Silence is infinite, but for the silence is infinite in its measurement. It can't be measured, basically. Matra actually originates from dhatu ma, which refers to something which is measurable. Curiously, the word Maya also originates from the same root. Anything which is measurable is Matra. In the next slide, we see whatever we can measure is Maya and Mithya. And to get into that Turiya, we need to negate, abolish anything which can be measured. That's where we reach the consciousness principle. There is no limit. You imagine anything which can be measured, that has a limit. Only when we can imagine something which can't be measured, amatra, or which can be measured infinitely. Imagine a tumbler or a cup in your hand. Just imagine, it's made out of the air itself. It's just in your imagination. And imagine you are measuring the space in your room using that invisible cup, which is made out of air itself. Is it possible? How many cups does it hold? Infinity. In the same way, when everything is made out of the consciousness principle, what will you use to measure what? When there is nothing, when there is Dvaita, what do you measure? Using what? When the measure itself goes. In olden days, we used to have these tape recorders, which used to run using a tape. When somebody asked those days, the cassettes, you remember the old cassettes of tape recorders. When somebody asks, do you have this and this song with you? Do you own it? So then you say, yes, you probably say, I have that Ganda the Gudi song. Then in the evening, you come home and proudly will put into the tape recorder and put it on. One after the other song comes. And you close your eyes and you just relish that song. In the end, some creaking sound and a silence after the three songs are over. In that silence, you realize you're not owning actually the song, but the tape on which it is engraved. Ah, oo, ma are like the three songs on the tape. And for you to get into that substratum on which this is engraved, you'll have to come to silence. And only in that silence, your attention can be drawn onto the tape. If you are in that ah, oo, ma, you'll be enjoying, you'll be somewhere in that ignorance. Or should we call it error? That's the error, misconception, misapprehension. Okay? And in that ma, we can add that ignorance, as Sir said. So that's when all these are abolished, when you come to that part of the tape which is silent, amatra, only then you realize you don't own the song, but actually what you own is the substratum of the song. That's you, that's the tape. So in that way, we have to remember anything which can be measured is false, is an illusion. Okay? That's where we take amatra. Where else do we get this amatra? You can remember Gita, verse 14 of second chapter. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkada agamapayino anitya tam stitikshatva bharata. What happens here? Matra sparshastu kaunteya. Only when we are touched by the sense organs do we have this gradient, do we have this differentiation, duality, a polarity to the world we see appears when we have that intention to measure, when we have that intention to differentiate. If we take that out, like pulling out the electricity, pulling out the wire from the socket, there's no differentiation, no song, no auma. It's only the silence. So with this strong note, after when we reach this stage, generally what happens, we reach a stage where you feel everything is mundane and everything else is to be so trivial. That happens in the second part of this Karika. Omkaro vidito yena samunir naitaro janaha. As a kind of, what else to say for others who does not have an intention to know, or if they have an intention to know, but they just blurt it out. So unless it is realized, those people can't be called as some, what he mentions here as munihi, the same thing. So that in the 12th mantra, it is said that the person who knows that he becomes one with Atma. And to put it in the other way, in this Karika, Gaudapada says, so who knows that will become a muni and not anybody else, not that external appearance or practice or whatever they know and just read out or just explain. Those are the munis who have understood this secret of Omkara. Not just that, the secret of the silence which follows the Omkara. So once this is done with this Karika, the 29th Karika, which is about Matra and Amatra, which comments on the 12th mantra, the chapter comes to an end. All the mantras of the first chapters are over. All the Karikas are also over. All the 12 mantras of the Upanishads are also over here. So with this, we come to the end of the first chapter, Agama Prakarana, and then the next Prakarana will start from here. Thank you.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. We now move into the second chapter of the Mandukya Karika, the Vaitatya Prakaranam. Chanting the verse, Vaitatyam Sarva Bhavanam Swapna Ahur Manishinam Antasthanatu Bhavanam Samrittatvena Hetuna. The focus here is on the 7th mantra of the Upanishad, which is actually the main teaching as we have seen. So just to recap and set the context, in the 7th mantra we saw, the next slide please. In the 7th mantra we saw that Brahman was revealed as the Turiya Atma. And Prapanchopamam Shantam Shivam Advaitam. The two important words were Prapanchoshamam. That is, even though we experience the universe, factually it's not there. And the second is Advaitam, which is the non-dual nature. The essence of this mantra is Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Brahman is revealed as the Turiya Atma. But how do we arrive at this logical conclusion? The Upanishad says Brahman is Advaitam, non-dual. What about the status of the universe? Is it non-existent? It cannot be because we experience it. Is it existent? If so, then Brahman cannot be Advaitam. So all of Vedanta is based on the three-part foundation of Shruti, Yukti, Anubhava. Scripture, reasoning, and experience to establish the truth. If we consider Brahman as the Atma or the observer and the world as the observed, then it leads to Dvaita. So the explanation is that it is neither existent nor non-existent, and therefore it belongs to a third category, which is called Mithya, which is seemingly or experientially existent, but factually non-existent. So if you look at the explanation of this Mithyatvam, seemingly existent and factually non-existent, both convey the same thing. The statement seemingly existent is Vivartavada and factually non-existent is Ajativada. That is, it has no origin. Two different ways of looking at Mithyatvam. In the next slide, we see that the Vaitatya Prakaranam, the second chapter, the whole of the second chapter is famous for the use of logic and reasoning to establish the unreality of duality or Advaita. So if you look at the word Vaitatya, Tataha, if you break it up, Tataha means as it is or in this manner. Vitaya means not in such a manner, it's not like that. And Vaitatyam is the state of being other than true or the state of being unreal. So it's all about establishing the state of being unreal. It is the Vaitatyam for everything other than the Atma. So it is Vaitatya of the world, body, mind, senses, dream state. So everything other than Turiyam is Vaitatya. Moving on, it is important to note Swami Paramarthananda's teaching, which is interposed in this introduction in this Karika. When we repeat, he says, when we repeatedly keep saying, talking about the Mithyatvam of the world, we may develop a misconception about is Vedanta negating the importance and value of worldly life. We must remember that the first aim of Vedanta is to reveal our higher nature, that is the Turiya Atma. And from that standpoint, Vedanta reveals the world as Mithya. So we've seen the four facets of Atma as Vishva, Taijasa, Prajna, and Turiya. The first three are experienced only in the waking state. And as Turiya Atma, which is my higher nature, I am the non-doer, non-experiencer. I cannot enter into any transaction. And the world is Mithya, it cannot disturb me. So Turiya Atma, from the Turiya Atma point of view, the world is Mithya. From the Vishwa or the Ahankara point of view, the world is real, it is important. And as long as we are in the physical body and our transactions are in this world, must conform to Dharma Shastras as prescribed in the scripture. And as we study Vedanta and we begin to be introduced to and understand the factually non-existent status of the world, repeatedly we are hearing that it is Mithya. Swamiji points out that we must never make the error of dismissing the world as irrelevant, because all our transactions in this world rest on the pillars of family, society, duty, and values. So in the Vishwa form, Dharma should be followed or adhered to in all our transactions. So this is where we are. We live in this world. We try to live according to the Dharma Shastras. So why should we really care whether if it's real or Mithya? Swami Paramarthananda says that all of us experience, it will occur to all of us at some time or the other about the purpose and the meaning of life, especially when we especially as doctors or anybody else who's exposed to so much suffering. And those on the spiritual quest will seek teachings that give us answers. And only Vedanta can provide this. Because the methodology and the philosophical approach using Shruti Pramanam, logic and reasoning, and Anubhava or experience is there only in Vedanta. In contrast, the Western philosophy uses only Yukti. Buddhism uses only Yukti and Anubhava. So moving on, we'll see a little bit about this, the dream world that the second chapter is talking about. So for Yukti, you must have something which can be perceived. That which cannot be perceived cannot be analyzed. So when you want to use logic, you need to perceive something. Atma or Brahman is imperceptible, so you cannot analyze it with Yukti. Yukti is useful in analyzing the world, the body, mind, senses, and dream state, and negating everything other than Turiya. So in this verse, it says, the wise people declare the unreality of all objects in dream because of the object's location within the body and because of the limitation of space. So in the first 3 verses of the second chapter, Gaudapada Acharya uses the example of the dream to explain the status of the world. Is it real or unreal? So in the dream state, we experience the dream clearly. So it is existent in the time frame of the dream, of sleep, because when we wake up, the dream is gone. So it is experientially existent for us, but it ceases as soon as we wake up. And when we are in the waking state, we certainly experience the world around us. But upon inquiry from the standpoint of Brahman, the world is also like a dream, Jagat Mithya. So Brahma Satyam, Jagat Mithya. So Vaitatyam, or the falsity of the world, is established in this chapter. Gaudapada Acharya also shows that the reality of the world in the waking state is only conditional reality. We must be in the waking state. And the reality of the dream is also conditional. We must be in the dream. And everything experienced in the dream is false. The wise ones say this as per the Shruti. And this is also understood as we have experienced it. That is our Anubhava. So having shown dream to be Nitya, Gaudapada Acharya shows that the waking state has also all the features of the dream world. And he uses logic to establish that the dream is Mithya or unreal. But we already know this. But logic is used here. And so for any object to exist, it needs sufficient space and time. In the first verse, we see that space is required. In the dream, we may see elephants, mountains, rivers, etc. But it's all happening in our head. So we need space. That's condition number 1. And for an event to take place, this space and time are absolutely essential. So all the dream events are happening in my head, the Pratibhasika Satta, and not outside my head, the Vyavaharika space. So using Yukti reasoning, next slide, sir, we see that we are experiencing a world consisting of mountains, rivers, etc. in our heads. But still, I am experiencing that world. In dream, my experience is real. In dream, there is not enough time or space. So the dream is unreal. And whatever is perceived is confined in this small, limited space. So the objects and dreams and events in the dream are only projections and not reality. So the first verse talks about Vaitatyam Sarva Bhavan. First line in this verse talks about Vaitatyam Sarva Bhavanam Swapna Ahur Manishina, which draws on Shruti and our Anubhavam. But Antasthanat Tu Bhavanam Samrittattena Hetuna is of Yukti. In the further verses, we'll see how Yukti proves that both the dream world and the real world that we are, and the world that we are living in is Mithya. Hari Om.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Vaitatya Prakaranam Karika 2. Adhirgatvacha kalasya gatva deshanna pashyati pratibuddhascha vaisarva stasmin deshe na vidyate. In the next slide, we find that Swami Paramarthanandaji has given the essence of the Karika first here. In the first half, the Uchitakala Abhavat reason is given. That is, Sufficient time is not there. One does not actually travel. Therefore, one sees the object within the body only, and within the body, space is not sufficient. Therefore, Hetu is Siddham. So we want to interpret this shloka as Hetu Siddhi and not the second Anumanam. But the Hetu Siddhi of the first Anumanam we have to interpret. That is first half of the shloka. And with this, the Anumanam Pramanam topic is over to establish Swapna Mityatvam. Vedanta says dreams are false. Adirgatvacha kalasya. This is not sufficient. Gatva dishan na pashyati. Time is not sufficient to go to far off place and return. We do not have one continuous dream while sleeping. We have multiple dreams. Each of these dreams lasts for a few minutes. Yet we experience the travel time. It is not sufficient to go to a place. Physically, we have not gone anywhere. We have two reasons for the falsity of dreams. First one is space is not sufficient. Second one is time is not appropriate. In the next slide, we see that we have a reason for experience. Reason in Sanskrit is called yukti. When we say dreams are false, the things in the dreams we saw are false. Contents of the dream are appearances. Nothing we see in dream is real. Now, our own experience shows that the dreams are false. Pratibuddhascha vai sarvaha tasmin deshe na vidyate. Imagine you have gone away from home to a distant place. Someone wakes you up suddenly. Then you realize it was a dream because you are back in your original place. You have no recollection of returning to your original place. All that you saw in the dream was only appearances. You had only dreamt up in the mind. You realize that you are not in the place of your dream, but you are back in your original place. So far, we have seen yukti, reasons. Sufficient space is not there. Sufficient time is also not there. A person does not see the Swapna Prapancha. So this is the Moolam. The reason is Supta Matra Eva. The moment he has gone to sleep, sometimes he starts dreaming instantaneously, Deha Deshat, from the place where his physical body is located. The dreamer seems to experience the dream world, which is internal. In the next slide, we see Pratyaksha Pramanam. In the second line, Prati Bodhascha means one who has woken up from sleep. Without exception, everyone who wakes up in the place where he was dreaming. That is Moolam. Therefore, what is the conclusion? Deshantaram nagacchati swapna. Nobody goes to another place. The second line is giving Anubhava Pramanam to show Swapna Mityatvam. Now, what is the Anubhava Pramanam? If a person is really traveling and experiencing all the objects outside, and then suddenly he wakes up and realizes that he was just dreaming and is back in his original resting place. Therefore, Anubhava also shows that it is an internal projected world only. Thus, Anumana Pramanam and Pratyaksha Pramanam are given in the first two shlokas. To conclude, Anubhuti, experience, contradicts what you had seen. That is, your experience goes somewhere in the dream and wake up somewhere else when you are awake. Hence, it is a dream. Hari Om. Thank you.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. So, verse 3. Abhavascha rathadinanam shruyate nyaya purvakam vaitathyam tain vai praptam Swapna Ahu Prakashitam. In this, the Mithya Tattvam of the dream is being explained. Next slide. Then what is Mithya? Mithya can be roughly translated as seemingly existent or a conditional reality, the reality which depends upon certain condition. Vaitatyam is another word for the Mithya. As long as the condition remains, the unreal will appear to be real. And what is the condition for the dream to appear real? A person has to be in a dream state. We can further understand this conditional reality by the following example. So we can see in the figure first, like the two trains are moving. So the velocity of these trains will depend upon from where we are observing the train, from the train 1 or 2 or from the ground. Means whichever frame of reference we are using, the velocity will change. The condition will depend upon the frame of reference. Similarly, in another example, the ocean and the wave, both are mithya because both wave and the oceans are water and are a different form of water only. For their existence, they are dependent upon water. And the third example is of the snake and the rope. The rope will appears to be the snake because of our avidya, but in reality, it is a rope only. So this conditional reality can be represented by ETU, means it has to be an experience. In dream world, we experience the mountain, the places, and they are clearly experienced by the person's sense organ in the dream. The second one is the tangible and the transactional. So a dream cup is useful for drinking a coffee. It is tangible and available for the transaction. Then the utility. Utility is like if we are thirsty in the dream, then the water available in the dream only can quench our thirst. So the dream world is real in the certain condition. The aim of this chapter is to show that the waking state as well as the dream state both are mithya. Then what is the real? Satyam. The Turiya Atma is the real. Next slide. So the Gaudapadacharya ji wants to establish the mithyatvam of the dream using the three pramanas. The first pramana is a Anumana pramana. The dream world cannot be real because it is experienced in a constrained space of our body. The mountains, stars, the planet cannot be accommodated in our body. Hence, the events and the objects which appears to be real in the dream world are nothing but the projection of our thoughts in the mind. Second one is the Pratyaksha Pramana. Suppose we are traveling in a dream to a place, but if we get up in the middle of the dream, we will not be in the place where we were in the dream. We will find ourselves in the place we have slept. And the third one is the Shruti Pramana, the Pramana from the Upanishads. So it says, Swayam Jyoti Brahmana, in the dream there are no chariots, no horses. We experience it through our mental projection. Actual creation requires time and space. Hence, establishing the mithyatvam of the waking state and the dream state. Next slide. So the Vedas reinforces what is known through the logic, experience, and using the pramanas of Shruti, Yukti, and Anubhava, the dream world is shown to be a mithya. Dhanyavad.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hegde sir, and our excellent speakers of today, Srimati Rama Madam, Dr. Kiran, Dr. Komal, Dr. Sandhya Ravi, Indumati Madam, and Dr. Ambika for bringing forth the wisdom of these profound verses. It is our homework to watch this class again because the meaning is so deep and there is a lot for us to ponder about. Friends, as you have seen in today's class, this learning of the Upanishads is only possible due to our gurus. And we will have a special session to commemorate Guru Purnima, which falls on the 21st of July this year. And our session will be on the 20th of July on Saturday at 6:45 p.m. We continue with our gift, Gita for Inner Freedom and Transformation classes, session 36 on the 22nd of July. As we have been announcing in the last few weeks, this learning of the Upanishads is only possible due to the Guru Shishya Parampara, which has allowed our Vedic scriptures to survive thousands of years. We can now offer our gratitude to the lotus feet of our Gurus on the occasion of Guru Purnima. The account details of Param Vedanta has been shared with you and has been sent in all the groups. We request you to please fill the Google form and the link which has been sent in the message. The entire offering will be offered to our Gurus and the details shared with you. Thank you very much for your continued support. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you.